Welcome. Welcome to Advocacy Day, a joint advocacy day between the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. More than 35 counties will be represented today, so we will feel the statewide impact of all of your voices, and that is what we need today. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape are here at the Capitol today with more than 100 advocates, asking our legislators and other elected officials to say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault.
I say no more to sexual assault. I say no more in York County. I say no more in Montgomery County. I say no more in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As a son, as a brother, as an uncle, and most importantly as a husband, I say no more to sexual assault.
I say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault by supporting my local domestic violence shelter at the Hanover YWCA through Safe Home.
I say no more to domestic violence and sexual abuse by authoring House Bill 1581. This bill will provide prosecutors the tools to bring perpetrators to justice for this violent crime.
And I'm here to say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault. If you or someone you love has been the victim of domestic violence or sexual assault, there are folks in our community eager to help you. Don't wait. Please visit.
I'm here to support victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. So many times victims don't think they have anyone to turn to. We need to make sure we educate our communities so that they know they have someone to depend on and someone that they can come to for safety and to protect them. I say no more to sexual assault and domestic violence.
It is easy as a state legislator and as any human being to say, of course I want to end sexual assault and sexual violence because I'm a son, I have a mother, I have a daughter, I have a wife, and that's all true and that's all valid. But as an elected official, it's not just about protecting women. It's also about protecting all of society and every human being in it. I want my daughter, my wife, and my mother to be safe, but I also want my son to be safe. And I want him to one day get into a relationship with somebody who's lived a life free of sexual abuse. It's on all of us to make sure that we end sexual violence because there are a few things as important, not just to the women of this planet, but to all of us.
I say no more to domestic violence. No one should have to live in fear and abuse.
We've come to a point in our society where we just have to say no. No more domestic violence, no more sexual abuse. And I'm willing to do anything I can in our district to help promote that.
I have been and will continue to be a strong supporter of funding for centers like Laurel House and the Women's Center of Montgomery County. I say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault.
I say no more to domestic violence because as a husband and a father to 2 daughters, I think it's time we stand up to stop this type of behavior.
And I say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault because real love should never include physical and verbal abuse.
Please say no more to domestic violence.
It's critical that we work together to end these horrific abuses, both in terms of sexual violence and domestic violence. And we stand together, united, here in the Pennsylvania Capitol, doing everything we can to eliminate sexual violence and domestic violence. So join me and say no more.
I think it's important for us to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. So I say no more.
Access to justice and services should always be available in Pennsylvania. I say no more.
I'm Kristen Hauser, Chief Public Affairs Officer for the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape and the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. And for more than 25 years, I have been working with survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, hearing about the pain of the trauma, the pain of the systems that they've worked in, the difficulties with their families, and it is time for all of us to say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault.
Survivors need more from our legislative body, and this is a critical time for them to deliver.
We need our elected officials, both in the legislature and in the Wolf administration, to hear from you as victims, as advocates who are voices for victims of both domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse, to let them know about our budgetary and our policy priorities, the things that we need them to do to help us end both domestic violence and sexual assault for the next generation.